Well, Canada's premiers are meeting for a second day in Victoria, British Columbia. CTV's Glenn McGregor joins us live with the latest developments. So, Glenn, what's on the agenda today?
Healthcare continues to be the main issue here for the premiers, and it's important to note this is a meeting of premiers and territorial leaders and not first ministers. That means the prime minister isn't here, and he isn't here to respond to the demands that are coming out of these meetings that his government increase the amount of money that they send each year to the provinces and territories to fund healthcare. This is a real point of contention, and there's growing frustration from the premiers here that they haven't been able to get any commitment from Justin Trudeau or any of his cabinet ministers to sit down and hammer out a renegotiation of the Canada Health Transfer. That's that big tranche of money that moves from the two levels of government every year. And they are actually saying now that they've reached a critical point in part because of the pandemic, but also because of systemic problems in the healthcare system. Our population is getting older, the cost of therapies and new medicine is increasing, and they are kind of at a breaking point. They want an urgent meeting with Justin Trudeau, and so far we're not getting it. What we're hearing from the federal government is kind of a lot of rebuttal. Dominic LeBlanc, who's the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, yesterday went on television on CTV News Channel and questioned the numbers that the premiers are providing to support their case that they aren't getting enough federal funding, and also raising questions about how each province might use this money if Ottawa does agree to send more. Federal government didn't like the fact that Quebec, for example, issued $500 rebate checks to every citizen after receiving a big chunk of money from the federal government to alleviate backlogs caused by the pandemic in surgeries and diagnostic testing. Also, same concern about Ontario that has basically cut down its own revenue by deciding to rebate license plate fees for motorists and to eliminate the fee in future. The federal government says you're asking on one hand for all this money, saying you're desperate for more money for health care, but on the other hand, you're reducing your own revenue. So you can't have it both ways. They want more accountability, more strings attached to make sure any new money that flows to the provinces actually ends up, Jamie, in the front lines of the healthcare system.
And we also heard from Premier John Horgan talking about, they really want to nail down this funding model. They don't want to be taking from Quebec and vice versa. So have the premiers been able to justify how they're allocating the money that the feds have already sent to the provinces?
Yeah, well, that's the key point for them, and John Horgan spoke at length this morning about how this isn't a case of the provinces going cap in hand, and he actually likened it to Oliver Twist asking for more porridge, sir. He says this is supposed to be a partnership. This is when Medicare was first created in Canada in the 1960s. It wasn't even split. The federal government and the provinces kind of met about halfway to fund the system. It says now the federal contribution is down to about 22%. But Dominic LeBlanc quibbles with that number, says, listen, that's not really the case. We give the provinces tax points that they can use towards healthcare. So there seems to be like a lot of kind of bad blood about this. And this issue comes up every time the premiers meet. But Jamie, this time in particular, it seems really acute, probably because this is the first time they've all met in person since the pandemic began. They've been having virtual meetings over the last couple of years. But you see a strongly united front from the premiers this time. We're going to see over the next weeks, maybe months, whether or not Justin Trudeau finally agrees to sit down with them face to face at a First Ministers meeting.
CTV's Glenn McGregor, we appreciate that report. Thank you.